Lipid disorders, traditionally, we have been considering more in terms of the genetic causes, which are very, very rare, but which can have a lethal consequences in that regard. But now we are seeing much more common in terms of the lipid disorders in terms of obesity and complications. Lipid cycle is constituting of the intestine from which the lipids are absorbed. From there, they go to their target areas where they are used, as you said, for the cardiac function and the muscle function, where you have fatty acids, ketones, and all those things are being utilized. Now, from there, they can go to the organs which are producing steroids like adrenals and then get deposited. From here, the lipid also goes to the liver. Now, liver plays a very, very central role in that regard. Liver is not only the cause of lipid disorders, it is also affected by lipid disorders. Now, all your studies about steatohepatitis is about that. So, lipid, ultimately, liver will have to manage. That's its responsibility. So, if you are not able to manage liver lipid properly, ultimately will have a problem in terms of hepatic function as well. So, liver is both a player as well as somebody which has got effective. Now, liver will be able to metabolize these lipids and then send it back to the circulation, where again excess lipid will get deposited in the macrophages, and there it will go into the vasculature, and that is going to cause all the complications. So there are good parts of lipid action in the muscle, in the heart, in the adrenals. Bad part is mainly the deposition, which causes harm in that regards. Now, when we talk about lipids, we talk about a few things. We talk about lipoproteins, we talk about apolipoproteins, enzymes, and transporters. And these all four will then combine to produce the whole lipid cycle. So what really is a lipoprotein, Dr. Vibha?
Lipids and the protein. Lipids are basically this cholesterol and the triglycerides and the proteins, and this is the apolipoprotein.
So basically you have got a lipid and protein in a sort of a shell. So it's like a package. It's like when you see you have got all the oil which has been imported and now it's been sent in those big vehicles. You see all those vehicles which carry the oil in which, so it's like a vector. So it's like you have sex hormone binding globulin, you have got other things which is carrying testosterone. Similarly, this is a lipid carrying large vehicle you can think of. So it has got proteins also, and it has of course got within it, it has got an emulsification, there it has got cholesterol and lipids. Now, what is apolipoprotein and what role do they do?
Apolipoprotein is which basically determines the distribution of the cholesterol and triglycerides, where they have to use from where they have to metabolize.
So apolipoprotein basically is controlling the overall effect of that cholesterol, where to release, where to metabolize, where to go. So it's one of the most important part of the lipoprotein complex. Then there are multiple enzymes and transporters which regulate the overall process. You have got lipase, which are mainly releasing the fatty acids. They are acting mainly on the triglyceride and chylomicron. So lipoprotein lipase and hepatic lipase. What else?
Apart from that, we have various transporters and which is responsible for the
and there is also a acyl transferase, which is very, very important, and you have one which causes sulfation. So sulfated products become also important. So in a way, if you talk about this, lipoprotein itself has got lipids and proteins, which is apolipoprotein, and enzyme and transporters. These three will decide your fate. We'll go one by one. So when I talk about lipoprotein, as Dr. Vibha said, you've got triglyceride, you have got cholesterol esters. So you need to esterify the process, and you have got native cholesterol as well. So it's like a mixed bag. In the same truck, you are supplying all these things together. And very importantly, how would one part differ from the other would mainly be, as Dr. Manoj said, the apolipoprotein. So which apolipoprotein is there, which direct it, which organ will it work, where it will release, how much will it release, when it will be uptaken from that perspective. So the first one which I'm going to talk about is chylomicron, which is basically the exogenous source. It is the imported lipids which body has. This comes from the diet. So chylomicron is unique that it has got huge amount of triglyceride. It has got less amount of cholesterol. It has got largely triglycerides in this scenario. It comes from the intestine and it is the carrier of dietary lipids. It has got multiple apolipoproteins. We talked about B, So apolipoproteins are designated into different forms A, B, C. B is important. What does B signify? If a lipoprotein has ApoB, what does it mean? Dr. Vibha?
So B100 is for LDL.
No. What does it mean? So if we say ApoB containing lipoproteins, they have a specific character.
This is basically for the
They are all
They have to get the triglyceride in the body.
they are all atherogenic. So all the ones which contain ApoB, LDL, VLDL, all that will usually be atherogenic. This one also has cholesterol, that is why, but mainly other ones, the ApoB 100 ones are even more atherogenic than ApoB 48. So this B48 will decide where they will go from that perspective. Now, ApoC2 is very important. It actually activates the lipoprotein lipase, and there is another ApoC3 which will inhibit that from that perspective. Now, this lipoprotein lipase will then digest the triglyceride. So it's like this truck is now carrying the overall process and it is going from a different scenarios. Now what happens is that they are being taken to different stores, and from there the triglyceride has been taken off, the oil has been taken off, and that is the way it is progressing from that perspective. Now, C3 is an inhibitor of lipoprotein lipase. So what will be the causes of, like, which defect C2 or C3 will cause high levels of triglyceride? So now we have talked about the various lipoproteins, apoproteins. Now what about enzymes? Now what does lipoprotein lipase do? Its word is very simple. It is lipoprotein lipase. So it is going to remove the lipid from the lipoprotein, more specifically fatty acids from the triglyceride. So this is associated with an anchor protein, which is a phosphoinositol group on which it is standing from that perspective. And then it acts on both chylomicron and VLDL. I have said clearly that ApoC2 will activate lipoprotein lipase, and this will cause triglyceride to be released in that particular area, and ApoC3 will inhibit that. So now again, Vibha, will you tell me what is the effect of ApoC2 deficiency? So your blood triglyceride will be huge. So you are, it's like chylomicronemia. You will have a lot of problems there. So that will be there. So if you have lipoprotein lipase defect, if you have ApoC2 defect, or if you have this GP1, HBP1, which is basically a phosphodiol inositol group, you will all have very high level of triglyceride. And this is what is known as familial hyperchylomicronemia, and that is what will present as you will get lipemic serum, you will get confusion, lipemia retinalis, but most importantly, the complication will be that you are worried about. So what is the most important complication of hyperpancreatitis? So because your triglyceride will be thousands, so that's why the risk of pancreatitis will be there in that setting. So we have talked about lipoprotein lipase, which is providing triglyceride there. Now let's go to the other way around. What will happen if you have a ApoC3 defect? So ApoC2 defect will cause hypertriglyceridemia. ApoC3 defect will cause
inhibition will be more.
So your triglyceride levels will come down. So ApoC3 inhibitors are used for treatment of hypertriglyceridemia. That is what is relevant for me. Now hepatic lipase, so your lipoprotein lipase, which is mainly in the circulation. So there the role is there, you want to release, but there is also one in the liver, which acts predominantly on both VLDL and LDL, and then it is going to work and will cause further changes on that. Now, when this hepatic lipase is not working very well, you will have a very interesting form of LDL, which is known as small dense LDL. What is the relevance of small dense LDL?
Sure. By measuring this, we can predict the risk of cardiovascular.
So when you talk about amount, you measure the lipoprotein. You're not measuring the cholesterol per se. You're saying this is the LDL level. And from there, you estimate this must be the cholesterol level. So if you have got a larger one, which has got same amount of cholesterol, versus a smaller one with same amount of cholesterol, you will falsely say the one who has got smaller amount or smaller size of LDL is safer because the total amount will be less. But this small may have more LDL concentration, more cholesterol concentration, and they will be more atherogenic. So small, dense LDL may be a marker of more atherogenicity and more dangerous. Which condition is small, dense LDL found? That is very important. So in diabetes, whatever, so what does it mean? Lipid profile, does it overestimate or underestimate the cardiac effects of diabetes? Yes, because you've got more small, dense LDL. So if you say you have a normal individual who has got a LDL of 160 versus somebody who has got a diabetes and a LDL of 160, the person with diabetes is at much more cardiac risk because of many other factors. There is lipotoxicity, everything is there. But even if you talk about from cholesterol, he has got much more cholesterol because of more small dense LDL as compared to that. So many people use measurement of small dense LDL also as a marker in that perspective. Now we talked about the lipases. The other important one is the acyl transferase. So LCAT, and we know LCAT also from many other forms. What does the LCAT do? It basically causes, so it esterifies. It makes it more storage in that perspective, and its major role is at the level of which lipoprotein? HDL. So HDL with A1 is going to contact with this, and it will convert cholesterol to cholesterol ester. So esterification is like fixed deposit. It's like you put in the bank, and now it's not going to be released in the blood. That is something which is important for them. So now we have talked about lipoproteins, apolipoproteins, enzymes, and now we'll talk about transporters. These transporters are also very relevant. So there are hepatic receptors, namely the remnant receptors, which are there for the chylomicron, IDL, and VLDL. Because if these empty ones keep on circulating in the blood, you're wasting protein. So basically, they are carriers. So all these vehicles have to come back to their main depot, which is liver. So there they have to come there. So remnant receptor via ApoE will take up the chylomicron and VLDL in that regards. Then you've got the level LDL receptor, which acts via ApoB100, which takes care of LDL. And we talk about that this LDL receptor is very, very important because this is going to really decide what your blood cholesterol will be from that regards. So that was for the hepatic one. Then we have got the ATP binding cassette transporter. What does it do, Dr. Vibha? The ABCA1.
Cholesterol from the blood.
Okay. Okay, fine. So it is basically again working with HDL. So HDL is saying, okay, you have got too much amount of oil. You were supposed to keep only 1 liter. You're keeping 10 liter. Give me back. So it is extracting from there. So ABCA1 is taking up cholesterol from the vessel, which is very important because till now we talked about how atherogenesis is happening. This is a reverse of atherogenesis. The cholesterol is coming back to the HDL from that regards. So that was ABCA. So you have got ABCA. As soon as the cholesterol comes in, it is esterified. So I have taken it, and the regulators are ensuring that he might also eat. Let's make it esterified. So he cannot utilize it. It has to come back then. Now the other important thing is CETP, which basically does what? Naveen?
That is basically transfers HDL to LDL.
So it transfers the cholesterol. It's basically exchanging the cholesterol and triglyceride, and that's how it will work in that regard. So it is connecting HDL with LDL and VLDL. Triglyceride is exchanged with cholesterol, and this is how it's working. So it's another mechanism of bringing in the cholesterol from that perspective. It's sucking out the cholesterol. And